Started with sand expanding, filled it with metaverse brands, immersed the central land, and TCG world expanding, creating work expanding. Each month give away 10 grand. Storm riders and fans, submit your started with the game jam, now you wanna go. Didn't care at first, but now you wanna know. Wanna work in the metaverse, tell you where to go. Bear, make it through the sandstorm, that's a really pro. Get your target, get your assets on the market. Bully bulldoze in the bear market. That's a magic, that's a carpet. Here comes Sandstorm for the artists. Game busy, Sandstorm, yeah. Started with sand expanding, filled it with metaverse brands, immersed the central land, and TCG world expanding, creating work expanding. Each month give away 10 grand. Storm riders and fans, submit your big old hand. Submit your bid, get your wallet lit, your artist audience, and build your client list. Your target, get your assets on the market. Bully bulldoze in the bear market. That's a magic, that's a carpet. Here comes Sandstorm for the artists. Yeah. Started with sand expanding, filled it with metaverse brands, immersed the central land, and TCG world expanding. Land's getting scarce out there, oh yeah. Better buy land than a bear, yeah. Could be a brand / chance, get out there. You can stake on your land, your community your land while you earning. Yeah, game making 8.0 coming out real soon, we gon' learn it. Streaming videos in the metaverse, got my wheels turning. The best artists in the industry working. Travel through the sandstorm, it was worth it. The collection will be perfect with the Sandstorm Metaverse built in person.
Whoa. You guys see that? That was amazing. Made by the talented Rasul the Nobody. That was a exclusive Sandstorm opening piece, composed, edited, directed, all the above by Rasul. So shout out to him. If you see him, let him know you saw that, and tell him how proud you are to, I don't know, be involved in this. I don't know, everything Rasul's doing in the Sandbox, like, it is unique, groundbreaking stuff. So please, yeah, shout out to him. Amazing stuff. So for me, I'm your resident Sandbox game maker. Today, it's Wednesday, November 30th. And what are we doing? Well, we're making a trading card game. So before we get into it, you can see I've got Voxedit open in the background. We're going to be doing a little bit of both. A little bit of Voxedit, a little bit of Game Maker. Got plenty to do in each. But thank you all for tuning in. If you're catching this live on Twitch, or if you can catch the next one live, please, please, please bring your questions. It's a great place to ask and get answers. This is a live format recorded every 1 p.m. at the moment on Mondays, and then usually Wednesday or Thursday. You can find me, Halfd0rk, working on my Sandbox projects. Sandstorm just so happens to want me to explore a trading card game during their live segments. So that's where we are. That's what we're doing. And please bring your questions. I am happy to take the time to answer them. You can also ask us over on the Sandstorm Discord. And if you'd like a link for that, you could find them on our social media, pretty much everywhere that you can find the Sandstorm brand. You can find a link to our Discord. We should totally set one up here in the Twitch chat. Great. Moobot right on call there. Moobot dropped a link for us. So before we get started with today's game making, the current Voxedit contest is up on screen. This is the Building the Past contest. So if you're interested, you can set up a verified account in order to submit to this project. So that does involve doing a little bit of KYC. So Sandstorm, following the Sandbox, is making it more official. The only thing that KYC is going to do is make it less likely for bots to invade these competitions and earn those prizes that could be rightfully yours. So if you'd like to participate in this contest, this is called Building the Past. So this time we open up a window to the past, a jump to our childhood. It's the turn of the game machines. Does the word arcade bring back any memories? I bet it does for many. Nothing better than an arcade day with friends, and at the end of the day, we always wanted to stay and live there. Wait a minute! That's it! Let's make it happen! New mission, builders. Objective: builders must create a giant custom retro pinball machine. So we're making exclusively giant pinball machines. And the last time we announced it, I had some ideas brewing as soon as I read it. And I think the best thing you could do is make a theme. So like a pinball machine, everybody's going to make one. But what sets yours apart? Perhaps you're a big fan of like the Bored Ape Yacht Club or the Cool Cats or the Gutter Dogs, whatever it is, you know, give it a theme, give it a spin, and really make it your own. Like another great example is Kingdom of Crypto and his Sicarian goblins. So he could have a Sicar goblin machine. And it's like 2 birds, 1 stone. You're submitting this pinball machine for a contest, but then it could also be like a double header where it's like your own content, or it could be for a brand in the metaverse. But either way, great prize pool here. First place is going to get 1,500 sand. Second place, 1,000. Third place, 800. Fourth place, 700. Fifth place, 500. And 6th through 10th, getting 100 sand. So as Rasul the Nobody so graciously shared, Sandstorm's giving away 10,000 sand per month. So just be a part of these bi-monthly or at least monthly Sandstorm Voxedit contests. This is the 20th, so you know they're good for it. Cool. So we're going to get right into things. Welcome NV, how's it going? Welcome everybody. Slater Raids here. Yeah, big shout out to Rasul. We got to spread the word there. Is there a specific size that the giant pinball should be, the machine itself? You know, that's a great point. It does not say, at least in this article that I'm reading, to have a limit, but the usual limit is game optimized 512 by 512 by 512. But Slater Raid will gratefully correct me if I'm wrong, which I usually am. Anyway, so last Voxedit session, we were working on animations. So essentially, I took the card art that I had purchased in a game developer's pack, and then I dissected it, and we removed the byte here. And so we saved that as its own file. So this is actually my master kind of effects file. So I'm going to be importing the other art that we had made. And we want to import voxes. And so this one should be the next to import. I wish there was an easy way to browse what these look like the thumbnails here. I don't think I've ever seen the thumbnails work. It looks like we have a preview, but it just doesn't show up. But yes, that is the one we're looking for. I should have another one as well to add to this list. So we're going to try and animate 2 cards today. Buenos tardes. Welcome in, Roxy. How are you? I can also export them from my older files, but that requires a little bit of digging. Let's see if I get lucky and just get this one here. And so, cool stuff seeing the things that the miners over at Pickaxe Master are doing. That's what they're currently streaming over on the official Sandbox stream. I made sure to get myself a pickaxe so I can participate. So I already tried number 4, so it's 2 or 3. But in Game Maker, we're going to be working more on the cards appearing in our hand, as well as playing them. So that's the hope there. But I did want to make at least a couple animations while we're hanging out in Voxedit. So we're importing. Nope, that was the wrong one too. Okay, we'll take our time and do this one first then. So first thing I'll do is shrink it down. So what I've done is I imported a 256 by 256 image. And so I will rotate it on several different axes. So first of all, I toggled the flip on the Z, so that made it face forward. And then I flipped it, or I should say rotated it, on the X. And so that shifted it to where it was facing upwards. And so now that we have that, I'm going to make sure it's set to the center of our art. And because it's 256 by 256, and it was originally by 1, I've added a 4. And now I'm going to reduce the volume a couple times. So 1, 2. So now we're at 64 by 64. I probably don't need it that small. In fact, before I go any further, I'm going to save it. I'm going to double check how large my other ones were. So we can see our bug bites. They were in fact 64. So it will look a little bit small in game, but it's going to keep that same fidelity as our card art. So we have that kind of like Phoenix form. I'm going to try and animate this as best as I can. So we're going to save that, and I'm going to make duplicates of it. I'm going to delete the ones we're not using. A little bit slow. Cool. I'm going to save as. So I like to make multiple copies of whatever I'm working on, but I do name them at least to where they're easy to find. So this is our VFX collection. We're going to do TCG underscore VFX underscore evolve. We'll save it. And we're going to work on that one right now. So I'm going to open up that specific file. So I had like my master version, and now I'm opening up the evolve file. And now I'm going to take the file we're working from, or the Vox file, and I'm going to delete everything else except for the assets I need by hitting this button, top right, and then doing delete unattached. It does take quite a while, huh? Just to delete files. But it's deleting it from the library as well here on the right. Hopefully they speed that up. But I guess it's not optimized at the moment. There it goes. We can delete this one too. And we're going to delete the blood as well. We don't need those. So I have my card art here. And I'm going to start from scratch. We'll delete these real quick. So this is all we're working with. This is our original file. I'm going to duplicate it. We're going to go Phoenix 1. And I'm going to start removing things. So one thing that V here in chat taught us is I can go to the palette and just click on these and just delete the color here. And it will delete the color wherever it might be in the piece I'm working on. And so I can swap to the eyedropper tool and do the same thing. So right now, we're just going for the bird here in the middle. So I'm just carefully selecting each of the different shades of red and orange. One thing I want to make sure I'm not doing is grabbing any of the reds and oranges in our bird. Cool. So we can see here, I actually did grab some of the colors I didn't want to. So I'm going to fill those with some random color. And maybe try to blend them if they stick out too much. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And this is our basically the very first layer. However, because we're animating it, I'm actually going to split this into two different sections. And this is why I like to go back and rename different variations, different versions. And so this one, because we've duplicated it, I'm actually going to separate the inner bird from these outer wings. So hopefully that'll make it look, a little bit more popping. So I'm going to go ahead and use the line tool for this. And try to use the erase tool. Maybe we'll try the box tool this time. The box tool draws in lines like this. But what I can do is I can start from a certain angle. And remove different ones. It's not limited to like a diagonal line using the line tool here. And we want that rim there. And we'll try and get the under feathers here. And hopefully this will give it like a really cool 3D effect when we bring it into GameMaker. But yeah, if anybody has questions about like the process of making assets, putting them in the GameMaker, like feel free to drop your questions here in chat. It'd be my honor to help you get started. Make it pop even a little bit more by removing the outer colors here. And those will be on the under layer. So hopefully that gives it more of a pop, but we'll see. I might regret this. The usual. I think we'll remove this white as well. Again, I could probably follow that same logic of just deleting the color from the palette. And yes, while that might work, we can see some of those whites might also be used in the middle here. So I'm just trying to go about it delicately. How you doing today? Yeah, welcome in, Go West. How are you? Looks cool. We'll save it. And now we'll see that we have that previous Phoenix. And we have the original Phoenix. So we have the Phoenix we just kind of like cut out. And then we have the original. So a couple things here. The 00 is going to be right here. So I'm moving that up into place. And I'll go ahead and just imagine a little bit what this might look like as an animation. So we want both of them to like kind of come up and outward. So like expand. And this one under it, but slower. So it'll have like this parallax effect. And so we're kind of making like two-dimensional art in 3D space, which is, you know, fun to say out loud. But yeah, that's the idea we're going with. So I'm going to duplicate this one. We're going to do Phoenix.3. And this time I'm going to do the opposite, where I'm erasing the middle part. And I do want to keep the white. So we're going to be removing outward. I believe so, right? Maybe not. Let's see what happens if I just remove majority of it. We can easily come back, touch it back up. So I'm going to save this and try that same kind of like parallax effect and see, you know, what it looks like. Make it look a little bit more presentable. So let's see what we're working with. Save this. And I'm going to put the 3 over the main portion. So we can see the Phoenix kind of like appears and goes up, whereas this one will remain down, closer to the ground. But both will be transitioning upwards. So we'll go ahead and start the animation, and we can see it in real time as we customize it. So we'll duplicate the animation, And this is going to be our Rise 01. That's what we'll call it. And it'll be over the span of about 3 seconds, we'll say. So I'll close all of my keyframes, clicking this button on the left side. And then in the middle, my main will go up about 7. We do want this to end abruptly. So the 3 seconds will actually be the final kind of like reset. So I want this to kind of start underground and then end underground. So it basically appears out of nowhere. And that's what we started with the other animations as well. So if we, using the very first frame, we'll stack these on top of each other. And then our control node is going to put it underground. We're going to do -40. And so I'll go ahead and copy paste that control node at the very end. And then same with the main node, which was a separation. Copy and paste. This one will rename. So this will be our Phoenix top layer. So we can see here it just kind of like appears out of nowhere. And then it kind of like fades back, but our top portion is going to kind of like spread a little bit. So it'll get larger, but it'll start small. So it's going to start like on top, like that, like directly on top, and then just kind of like rises and then falls a little bit. Maybe have it fall a little bit less. Yeah, something like that. So it kind of like appears on top of our card and then slowly fades away. I would like a little bit more of a explosive effect. Maybe when we finally get lighting in the Game Maker, that might be more fun to play with. But for now, that's honestly a good testing point. So I can bring this into the Game Maker and we can figure it out from there. Like one thing I might do is maybe take this red on the outside and maybe expand on it and make a middle layer that kind of rotates around in the middle. In fact, we can just play with that idea real quick. Let's be Phoenix-4. I'm just going to remove everything else. So I'm going to create these red curves here. And what I might do is just take one of them and then use that one as kind of like a blade and then kind of like make them kind of flare outwards, you know? Don't ya know? Let's go ahead and paint that shape. We'll like curve it out. And again, we're making like a wing here. So I'll go ahead and remove this one. Remove some portions of this. We're going to use that same color palette that's found at the top. So we can see here there's like a fuchsia. Would you call that fuchsia? That we can put all around the perimeter. We'll have a darker red that we can also kind of like decorate the middle. And then we have the main red that will encompass most of it. And then finally, we do want to create kind of a larger curvature of the wing itself. So we'll add some more squares. That gives it more of a curve. something like this. Cool. Let's see how it looks in game, or I should at least say in the animator. Save that. And one thing to note is I didn't adjust the pivot point. However, that might benefit us. So we're going to do F1 for feather 1. And so when the animation has begun, which I don't have a keyframe for the F feather yet, but we're going to see how it looks. I can cause it to rotate around that pivot point, which is the center. So just grabbing the feather itself, you can see here I have the sole feather that I'll be able to kind of spin and animate like a feather kind of like rising from a phoenix. And yeah, I'm actually into this. So what I'll do is going back with that same idea of duplicating our work so that we can work from kind of like chapters in a way. This is going to be Phoenix 2B. So alphabetically, it should sort these. Does it? It doesn't sort it alphabetically, apparently. But with our Phoenix 2B, I can go back and remove those excess feathers, aka the ones that we just recreated. So we'll take the line tool and we'll decorate and go outward. So now I have a relatively featherless phoenix. But the magic will happen when we, recreate it in the animator. So we'll save it. And so now we'll replace that same node that we already pre-created. Put it right on top. And now I'm going to place these feathers all around it. And we're going to have 4 of them. Or I'm sorry, 3 per side. I guess you could say 4. We might shrink this a few times. So with our 4 feather, a couple things I want to do. Well, I don't actually have to make too many variations of it. I can actually flip this on its axis here. So flipping it on the y-axis, which is the green number, I can position it to where it's also being rotated. And it'll follow the same rules as, using the z-axis, which is the blue dial. And it'll rotate around the pivot, so it looks like it's still, attached to the bird. And then I think what I will do is I'll take these feathers and we're going to make Phoenix 4B. And I'm going to shrink these. We do want to keep this size as best as we can. So let's see what happens when I do 64, 64, and 2. And I shrink it by half. Then I'm going to add the 64 and 64 and position this in a way to where it'll still rotate around the middle portion. So we'll do set to center. And so that's still going to be like our main rotation, and that's going to help us in the animator. So we'll save it. And then following that same logic, we can go and duplicate one of our feathers. This will be F3. So looking at it again from the top portion. With F3, I'll put the new feather we just made. And you can see it's a little bit smaller, but this might be better for the smaller feathers. And it'll rotate directly around that middle portion. We can see this one actually is flipping over. We don't want that. So we'll just reset these real quick. And that was because we copy pasted another feather. And so this one was at 15 and 4 through 7, but it was reset to 0 right here. So this one we want at 0, 0, 0. And we'll copy paste that back over here. And then it needed to reset, I believe. Because we were using that functionality, which I guess we'll add it later. That'll be fine. Okay, so we just got to make sure these feathers are in the correct place. Got negative 14 here. Do 14 on this one as well. Cool. So those are going to be like our ending. Nope, we want those in the middle. So this will be F1, which we have it. Put it 14, and then it's going to start right here. So it kind of like comes out, and then we're going to have those wings spread out, as we can see. So that's kind of like the final effect is more like this, where it's a little bit more spread. But you won't be able to see it because it's all going to be like two-dimensional. So it'll be on top of everything. So it should be really expansive. So again, like our final position, which we have at 14. This one's also 14. And then rotates out a little bit. Probably something like that. Looks good. And then with the lower feathers, it's doing the same thing, except we want it to go outward a little bit more. That, and then we're going to duplicate it and put it on the other side. This one, we might want to adjust that starting position a little bit to where it's closer to that. This is going to be actually very pretty when it's done. Kind of excited for it. So let's go ahead and duplicate this one. We'll do F4. And we're basically flipping all of these 180 degrees. It might take a little bit to put them in the right place, much like how we did with the other. But using the keyframes as our guide, it'll take half the time. So we're just trying to match that same shape. And these feathers are actually a little bit layered. So we can see here, I want this one to be on top of our larger feather. That should be good. So where they're not Z-fighting. Z-fighting is another common term you'll hear in the sandbox. Where Z-fighting is basically two voxels fighting over the same space, whether that might be just one face of it or, you know, completely overlapped. Same situation. This time I'm actually just going to copy that other keyframe we made, paste it, and then lower it. That should do it. I didn't do it. We can copy this and then paste it once again. That's the ending keyframe, so I should keep that in mind. This one, again, we want to spread out, kind of like a feather, expanding. Pop it out like so. Make sure it's symmetrical. Pops out. And then floats down and then resets down at the bottom. So the resetting at the bottom is all done through the controller node. So I don't actually have to move any of these. However, when it starts, we can see that some of my feathers are in incorrect positions. So this one here is the F4. So I want to copy one of those final keyframes, paste it, and then we'll lower it, make sure it's underground and kind of like stacked on the other variations. Cool. Let's play our animation. So looking at it from a two-dimensional perspective. So we won't ever see this asset from any other angle than this. So only from above. We can see it kind of curves out. So my feathers there aren't symmetrical. So we will change that a little bit. So that's my F1. Make sure it's pivoted at the same point. And then we'll kind of have them fan out here at the end. So I'm going to have all of these frames copied. And then the last frames, we're going to fan all of our feathers out just a little bit. Just kind of give that final kind of like spreading the wings feeling. It looks pretty cool. It'll be like a cool sound effect that plays. And then once lighting comes out, I think we can make it pop even more. So yeah, we're going to test that in-game starting Monday. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And we also have the idle version. We can see it's a little bit jank. So our idle version, we're going to stack on top and make sure it's all using keyframes that make it look like an asset. So we'll do like something like right here. Take all of these keyframes, copy them, and then we'll just make sure they're pasted right on top. One thing I might do is just make sure the Z fighting isn't happening. So we'll do a little bit of layering. Cool. Well done, me. We might want to close the keyframe just in case. So whenever you hear somebody say close the keyframe, that means placing at least one other keyframe in a static animation so that it's constantly looping on that animation. Generally speaking, you do this whenever you have multiple animations. That's that. Oh, we'll go back to our main VFX. I was hoping to do one more. I am missing one of my 5, so let's see if we can find it. I've tried pretty much all of my imports, except for number 4. If it's not this one, it's number 3. But yeah, if anybody has questions, thank you so much for joining us here on Sandstorm. I'll be streaming for another 20 minutes. We might hop into Game Maker and work a little bit on our turns. So we're making a card game, which is a lot harder than it looks. Not gonna lie. So it wasn't 4. It was 3. And so if you would like to learn more about our card game, you can also find it in the YouTube series on SandStorm. So if you'd like to figure out how to make your own card game, well, it's going to be hard to understand how my brain works. And so that's part of the reason why we made this show, this series, is that you get to figure out how I work through problems as they arise. And so, yes, it will be frustrating. Yes, I will pull my teeth out. And yes, you'll probably pull your teeth out. But at the end of the day, we have a lot of fun just working through problems. All it really is at the end of the day. Problem solving. This is our fire dash spikes. And this is the last of our animations that I will be making. Go ahead and save a new file. We'll open up that specific file. I like to try to organize as best as I can to where I'm not writing over previous versions. So we're going to now remove unattached because we're in the new file we've just made. So there's no destructive, methodology, I guess you could say. Letting that load. It does take like 20 seconds usually whenever we're deleting, I guess, like big files from a Vox VXM file. I guess these are VXR files specifically. Let's see what VXR stands for. Is a binary data format. It'd be crazy, and this is just me like having stupid fantasy daydreams, is what if I typed in a bunch of binary code, saved it as a VXR file, and then I would get like a randomized asset, like pre-made. Because at the end of the day, it's all data anyway. So like I stumbled my way by typing in random numbers into creating art like this. I mean, that might be a cool experiment. I'm not saying it'll work, but cool nonetheless. Okay, so now we're continuing with this. Hello, trolls. Welcome in. So we're going to duplicate it. This is going to be fs-1 higher spikes. Drag and drop it. We are now going to pivot this and flip it. Save this one. First thing I'll do is make sure the pivot point is centered, but then we're going to be resizing it regardless. So we're at 64 by 64 by 1, and the pivot point's still in the center. So we'll go ahead and save it, export it. And now I will duplicate it again, and we're going to start layering it, so removing the various layers. So the best and easiest way we can do it is by selecting a color using the eye picker, or just finding the color on the color palette, hitting that trash can. Hit the trash can. We'll take each of these, remove each one. That makes the process so easy to clean up. And all I really want is the kind of outer portion of the spike removed. And then we can kind of like shift and animate them. And I might even make like a backdrop for this one. So what I'll do here is, first of all, go back and try and find this color. Like it's multiple colors. And I'm gonna just remove these gradually. Or I can remove everything in a different version, which I think is more beneficial. So what I'll do is now just remove everything. And this time using the face tool is actually going to help us a lot. And for this portion, I want to keep the outer border, but then I'm going to color this entire thing. So I want to try and use that same kind of gradient shading. And essentially bucket tool, paint. Who am I kidding? I think for this, before I commit to it, I'm just going to color the whole thing one color. We'll save it. And this is going to be like our backdrop. So we're going to create a child node. This is going to be background or backdrop, either one. This is going to go under. We want it at 0, 0. It's currently centered. I guess this one is not. So we're putting it at 0, 0, which even now it's still saying no. Here we go. 0, 0. And the spikes we're going to overlay on top. And the backdrop will be close behind it. Looks like we've moved a couple of our parent nodes here, so I'm just double checking. Okay. There we go. Now we should be good. And so now I'm going to try and remove only the spikes. So I want to keep everything except the spikes. So I think we can go back to removing by color. But I should save a version of this before I continue. So F3. And we'll edit it, and I'm going to remove each color. So we'll go back to the eyedropper tool, select the darker colors, remove it by clicking the trash can. And so that's going to remove every portion of it. And I'm looking for just the yellow spikes in this case. We'll keep the red as well. Yeah, that's looking gnarly. Gnarly, man. Hey, Just Gibbous is here. Great shows today, by the way. And OG Shakespeare, great show from you as always. Sadly, you're early, so I usually miss it. But regardless, thanks for popping in. How's it going, fellas? We're separating these spikes to make some animations, which should look pretty cool. You know, it's just like a literal half-second moment where effects are taking place. But this is something I greatly appreciate when a card game, you know, puts an end to the experience. Namely, like popular card games like Hearthstone, even like the Magic Gathering series, or Legends of Runeterra. Those are some of the more common ones you might think about when you're thinking about a digital card game. But, you know, at the end of the day, this game that I'm making, we haven't really decided on like a theme or like mechanics. So I am open to some interpretations. Like some people have suggested making a Sand Fam card game. So like, for example, we could have the Pickaxe Miner or one of the Sicarian Goblins. And they're a character you can play as or play as a card, which might be fun. We'll go and save this and see how it looks. So we can see I now have these claws that are kind of like just overlaid on top. What I will probably do now is first I'll fill out the claws so they're all intact, and then I'll remove each claw as an individual claw, and then maybe make them kind of like spread and span and turn just to make it more engaging to the eye. Fancy fire, yeah. Well, I mean, it does look like fire, but they're kind of like claws or spikes. I think we call them like spikes. It's the little details that bring things to the next level. 100% agree, Slaterhead. Me personally, I'm like a big picture type, and so Voxedit is not my strong suit. And I think a lot of you know exactly what I mean when I say that, because you've seen me build before. It ain't pretty. I just prefer Game Maker myself. So we're gonna fill out these spikes. So essentially I removed colors. Now I'm gonna add them. I'm gonna go ahead and add all of one color because that'll be easier to like paint over. Sure, there's a better way of doing this rather than doing each individually. Let me just attempt to do this. Okay, well, I'm using the create tool and the select tool to basically paint in the gaps. So it's literally just filling in the gaps here. So that's a lot more productive than doing them each individually. This is usually the type of things I'm looking for, is like, how can I do this faster? Very relatable, right? I think I do that with a lot of things in life. It's like, how how do I leave this faster? How do I get out of this meeting ASAP? Okay, well, that's a good starting point. So we now have our fully created kind of like spikes, and they look great. I think the shading kind of carried over pretty naturally. They're not perfect, obviously, but at the same time, you know, if I need to touch them up, it's only a couple voxels away. Only one voxel away. Sounds like a cheesy Hallmark card. Life is like a box of voxels. You have a very particular color palette, and the maximum size is 512. Fire tentacles or a tongue. Oh, true that, Gibbous. I could see this as being like a cat's tongue or something. But tentacles, most likely. I was thinking like spikes, kind of like insects, you know, have those defense mechanisms. Like some release a burst of smells or, you know, some sort of self-defense. So this is, I think I labeled them blaze spikes, which is actually a shout out to an old game I used to play. So now that we've fleshed out the spikes, we're going to do ss-spike-1. And so I'm going to keep this original file, but now I'm going to remove each of these individually. So we'll start left to right. I think that makes the most sense. I'll take the eraser tool and just give myself a little bit of space here. And then I'll take the select tool and just remove them in bulk. And so this part's pretty simple. I'm essentially just making the same spike that is already made and just separating it. And I'm actually going to keep the pivot point where it is. I don't have to. Not for this one, at least. So let's go ahead and crop this down to size. And I'm going to put the pivot point at the bottom because that might make it easier to animate, at least for this particular one. So I'll do right-click, set to center, right-click, set to floor. I'll put the pivot right there at the bottom. So now we'll rotate from that pivot point, which will be a lot more beneficial, I think, for what we're looking for. So in the main, we're going to do a new child node. This will be spikes. And then from that, we'll have more child nodes. Hey, thanks for the follows. Do I have the, yeah, Sandstorm notifications are up. Did you paint or generate the image? Ah, just give us, thank you for asking. These images are from a game developer pack. And so I want to preface this because you guys can do this too. Like, it's not just something I'm allowed to do. You can buy assets that are intended for other game engines. So this particular pack is game icons for Unity. They're actually covered under their licenses to be used in video games. So the only thing I would recommend is not trying to resell them. So I'm essentially using them for their intended purpose of putting them in a game. So yeah, just another, I guess, warning, I suppose, is like, you do not sell these. The stuff I'm making will not be sold. But I basically bought these assets to be used in my games. And so what I've done is I've converted it through magic of voxel, and that turns any image into a vox file. It basically voxelizes it. And then I exported it as a vox file to be imported here. So there is a little bit of a step-by-step process. Hey, CryptoFunk, welcome in. Love Magicka. Yeah, I use Magicka more often now that I know how useful it is. It'll be fs-spike-2. For this one, we're removing everything except that middle spike. So yeah, next time around, I would love to kind of walk through that process. In fact, if we finish this spike, which we will, I can just show you that process real quick. Or finish, you know, the other two spikes. So we're going to crop it, right click, set to center, set to floor. Looks like we have spare pixel here. You set to center, prop, set to floor. Gonna keep making these spikes. All we're doing is removing each one, then cutting it out, trimming it. Yeah, I don't want people to think I'm like some sort of master graphic artist. Ironically, I'm more of a motion graphic artist. That was a part of my career before. Graphic artists get a lot of flack, but hey, gotta do what you gotta do. Duplicate this one, the S3 for spike 3. Put our spike in and move it to where it's overlaid on top of the other one. Duplicate this one again. We'll do fs-spike -4. And then we're just removing everything except the last one. Keep that curve. And finally, crop it. And do set to center, set to floor, save. And we'll take that spike, we'll duplicate the node to be spike number 4, overlay it on top, and replace it. And so now I should be able to hide this one. And these are the original spikes, but now they're all cut out, trimmed to where I can now kind of layer them. So this one's at 6. You might do like 5. This one will be 4. This one will be 6, and then this one will be 7. And so now I'll kind of like animate them. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll make new animation. This will be fan, like fan out. So it'll last like 2 seconds probably. Maybe it'll loop. So we're going to go back to our control node. We'll close all the keyframes. One thing I've been doing with each of our animations here is having a double close. Maybe I'll come up with a name with this, but basically it starts underground and ends underground, but there's like this one keyframe that makes it jettison to where it's above ground. So it's kind of like it's hidden until you need it. And so I'll be using this in tandem with a door behavior in GameMaker. So Monday, if you guys are around, pop in and I'll show you how to do that. Let's see, it pops up, pops out. And so on that last keyframe, if we're using a door behavior in the GameMaker, it's going to make it stop on that keyframe. So it basically plays the entire keyframe. So if it starts on 0, ends on 0, much like a door opening and closing, you know, it opens. And then when you do it again, it closes. And so when it plays that animation, it's stopping on the last keyframe. You could technically do this with an animated decoration as well. But I like door behaviors. I think it's more intuitive because they actually send out messages as well. So I can attach messages to the door behavior. But yeah, these are just the things I think about. Ronnie Morrison, what's up, dude? Oh, and Just Give Us, have you tried using AI? Midjourney? Yes, I love Midjourney. Are you, first of all, Just Give Us, that is a fantastic idea. I should have done that with this game from the beginning. Second, I had purchased these, so I wanted to use them. Third, are you using it? Are you using AI for anything? Because I do have a subscription. And I've been using it for like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. All right, so now we're gonna fan these out. So we can see it starts underground. And then it has this starting animation. So at the half point, I'm going to rotate all of these a little bit. This one will probably rotate outwards, 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 and outwards. And then maybe they'll kind of like have some variations here. And then more variations. This one stays stagnant a little bit too long. Now they're kind of going a little bit too crazy now. I want them to kind of look kind of like slimy, maybe. Like that's something you don't want to touch, you know? I like it. Cool. So we'll save that. And I just wanted to walk through the magic of Voxel real quick, and then we're going to be ending the show. So thanks, everybody, for stopping in. And if you didn't know, there is currently a live Sandstorm Voxedit competition. So here's the link for that if you're interested. I think while we're talking about it, I can review it real quick. Ironically, it says I'm not eligible because you have to go through the KYC on their website. So it's worth noting you have to KYC to participate. These are new rules for the Voxedit contest. So if you are looking to try your skills at building something, right now the theme is pinball machines. So keep that in mind as we just talk over this real quick. Game machines, a blast from the past through the childhood. Maybe I should read the sentence rather than try to reword it. Anyway, does the word arcade bring back any memories? I bet it does for many of you. Nothing better than an arcade day with friends. And at the end of the day, we always wanted to stay and live there. Wait a minute, that's it. Let's make it happen. New mission, builders. Builders must create a giant custom retro pinball machine. So if you're interested in participating, big prize of sand. First place getting 1,500 of it. So just keep in mind, you have to KYC in order to participate. So I hope you're a real person and you're not a bot just pretending to be a person. That would be bad because then we couldn't be friends. So anyway, let's now find a simple... Ooh, I actually have a couple that I made in artificial intelligence software that I can drag and drop here. Do we want to pick a creepy one? Oh, I have a creepy one. Let's use the creepy one. All right, cool. So in Magic Voxel, you delete the main cube and you got this flat surface you can use. I'm gonna drag and drop my creepy voodoo doll girl. So creepy voodoo doll girl here is already voxelized. You can see the pixels that come with the shading of her face. I bought a lot too. I feel you. Anyway, with this girl here, you would then click the Save As project, and that's going to bring up your Windows Explorer. I have a folder that I save all of my imports into, and so I'll walk through this in Voxedit, but I have now saved my Voodoo Girl file. I can now close out of Magic of Voxel. Back in Voxedit, we'll create a new asset, and we'll save this one in our November folder. This is going to be voodoo underscore, actually just girl and then underscore v1. There we go. Save it. And now I'm going to go ahead and import the Vox file. So I have a exclusive folder. This is good for your own, reference, is making hierarchies of folders. I've started doing month by month, and that's helped me a lot because then I can archive it when I'm, not working from September, August, July, etc. So imports, I have my Voodoo Girl. It's now importing. Hey, thanks, Money Morrison. That is artificial intelligence generated. So if you've been sleeping under a rock the past year, AI has taken the art scene by storm because people are faking their art. So AIs have been creating NFT products. You've been able to recreate famous art, artists. Like you could probably make Van Gogh's Starry Night, but you can do it with different themes, different subjects, and whatnot. So basically, I told AI, like, hey, what does a voodoo girl look like? Or more specifically, a young girl holding a voodoo doll. We can see here her hands are kind of messed up, but AI tried its best at making hands. That's still pretty creepy. She's got 7 fingers. I don't want those digits. And so it saved it in Magic of Voxel, exported as a Vox file, imported into Voxedit, and now it's ready to be worked on. So I would probably make a child node control. And then if I were to bring this file into the Sandbox like ecosystem, I would probably put like a frame around it. Maybe I could use this as a reference behind like a character. So like maybe I'd be drawing a character or creating from a hierarchy, like a skeleton. But overall, like pretty simple process to get a PNG into Voxedit, and that's using Magic of Voxel. So highly recommended. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. That's going to be our show today. Where can I get AI? You'll want to look up on YouTube. So Money Morrison, look up Stable Diffusion or Mid Journey. So those will send you down the rabbit hole of artificial intelligence art. But that's usually where AI messes up. Yeah, Slater, all the usually fingers, toes, AI just doesn't know how to do it. Can't compute it. Money Morrison, I ain't got nothing for you. Sorry, dude. Crypto Funk, thanks for stopping by. Gibbous, OG Shakespeare, VVox, Rocky Morrison. Thanks, everybody. Hope you all have a fantastic day. Garnikin, thank you. Sparky Sniff, catch you later. Yeah, let me put up the ending screen. Oh, yeah, did you guys not see Rasul the Nobody's Sandstorm animation lyric music video? It's a mouthful. Just watch it. Okay, bye.
Started with sand expanding, with Metaverse brand, immerse the central land, and TCG world expanding, creating work expanding, each month give away 10 grand, storm riders and fans, submit your started with the game jam, now you wanna go, didn't care at first, but now you wanna work in the Metaverse, tell you where to go, bear make it through the sandstorm, that's a really pro, get your target, get your assets on the market, bully bulldoze in the bear market, that's a magic, that's a carpet, here comes sandstorm for the artists. Sandstorm, yeah. Started with sand expanding, with Metaverse brand, immerse the central land, and TCG world expanding, creating work expanding, each month give away 10 grand, storm riders and fans, submit your big old hand, submit your bid, get your wallet lit, your artist audience, and build your client list, your target, get your assets on the market, bully bulldoze in the bear market, that's a magic, that's a carpet, here comes sandstorm for the artists, yeah. Started with sand expanding, with Metaverse brand, immerse the central land, and TCG world expanding. Lands getting scarce out there, oh yeah, better buy land than a bear, yeah. Could be a brand / chance, get out there. You can stake on your land, your community your land while you earning, yeah. Game making 8.0 coming out real soon, we gon' learn it. Streaming videos in the Metaverse, got my wheels, got the best artists in the industry working. Travel through the sandstorm, it was worth it. Your collection will be perfect with the Sandstorm Metaverse built in person.
What? That was awesome. Let me play it again while we're raiding.